to the first season of Fading Our Way to Success, a podcast all about how success in business is not a ladder that is climbed slowly and steadily, but more akin to a web of events, some good, plenty bad, and everything in between, where you just hold on tight and keep going despite the odds. I'm your host, Helena Baker, and I've been in business almost all of my professional life. First as a fairly average copywriter, and now running English-speaking networking. To celebrate the 5th year of ESN, in this season I'm interviewing 5 business owners with more than 5 employees who've been in business for more than 5 years. With no BS, these episodes will explore how failure only defines you if you let it, and actually how it is an unavoidable part of any business story. Hello, Baruch.
Good afternoon. How are you, Helena?
I'm good. Welcome to Fading Our Way to Success.
Thank you so much. Great to see you. Great to be with you.
Very excited to have you. I have a very strong relationship with Route 38, your company. I've spoken at your event. You have sponsored my event last year and are sponsoring this year.
Both of which we were very excited about.
Thank you.
We very much enjoy working with you, together with you, and I think we have shared visions, which is fun to build together.
I agree. And I think the adjective I used to describe you guys is menschlich. Is that an adjective?
If there's any adjective that I would aspire to, it's that. So
Yeah.
I am thankful that you.
No, definitely.
I'm thankful that you describe us as that, and that is what we strive for.
You really are menschlich people, and it's really a joy to work with you. And I'm so happy that you are on the podcast, because this season is about being in business for more than 5 years with more than 5 employees. And you've been in business for how long?
About 11 years now. January will be 11 years.
And how many employees do you have?
We have approximately 11 or 12 staff members right now.
Wow, that's.
So we've
and I've
definitely
been to
grown.
your offices.
Yes.
And they're really nice.
Thank you. Yes.
And a lot of from women, which I think is a really cool thing that you're offering a way for them to earn money.
Listen, yes, definitely like to support as many people, as many good Jews as possible, no matter what what their background is in Israel. That's part of our entire matara, our entire goal is to be able to provide parnasa, provide sustenance to people here in Israel, no matter what, like I said, what their background is, and to be able to do it in a personal way is both exciting. It's also a huge responsibility.
Whoa, and
it's also a little bit scary.
I can imagine. Yeah, it's a lot of people to support. But let's go back to the beginning, and then we'll come back to present day.
Okay.
So Route 38 Route 38. I'll try that again. It's not a difficult word to say. Was started 13 years ago. You
11,
said 11. Okay, I had to do extra years for you. Take me back to those early days of why you started the company.
We started as most things that happen in life. We actually had a whole different mindset and a whole different objective in trying to start the company. And God kind of shifted our direction to the way that He wanted it to move towards. I have known my partner, my Cash, now for
Another man.
30 plus years. We both went to yeshiva together many, many moons ago. And when I made Aliyah 17 years ago, I happened to run into him into the Makolet.
Really?
The first week that we were here, I happened to end up my first year living literally the building next to him.
I didn't know that.
And we had, we were good friends back in the day. We had lost touch. And so we started, first we started learning together, in the mornings a little bit. I had a job at that point in America. And was telecommuting which was less common back then than it is now. Over the course of time, Mike had a separate business that he was working on. He had a web development company that he was working on. And over the course of time, he had employees that he had to give a tlush maskara to give a pay stub to. I was trying to potentially shift. My job was a little bit shaky, so I was thinking about different things I could do here, and I needed infrastructure. So we got advice from an accountant who gave us horrific advice. He told us to open up a company, a charat ba'am. Never, ever. Just stam. Just it's not a good thing just to do right off the bat here in Israel, because you need to have some significant income in order to make it worthwhile. It's a headache. It's expensive. But again, this is the way that God wanted it, so this is the way we took it. I didn't know any different back then.
Wow.
I did it. The first couple of years, I was wondering why I did it, but eventually people started coming to us and say, "Hey, I heard you have a company. I need something. I need some infrastructure. I have a job here. I want to report. I want to be legal. My company wants me to be legal. How do we set this thing up?" And so we took a couple years at that point to really research, understand what the different issues were involved. It's a little bit of a gray area, and especially 10 years ago or so, there was a very well-known, very public court case that went all the way to the Supreme Court here in Israel with another company that had been doing this for many, many years. They are still in business, by the way. And so therefore we know that it is legal, but you have to do it the right way. So we took a long time to make sure that we offered something that would be both legal, even above that, doing everything, crossing all T's, dotting all I's. And so the first couple of years was just, really close friends and family. And, we just had, maybe 7 to 15 clients or so until we felt more comfortable to really take off.
It was really like an incubator period of working on like research and development and kind of really going deep on that essentially.
Sure. Making a lot of mistakes, as we will talk about now. But that's how you develop a business.
Yeah, there's no such thing as mistakes in businesses. It's part of the journey, I would say. But yeah, that's...
Well, I was going to clarify. There's no such thing as failures in business.
No, there's mistakes. You're right.
Mistakes you can make as long as you learn from them, the first time, the second time, whatever it is, but you learn from them and you grow. You always will grow from them. But failure is not part of business.
Listen, if you closing a business is not always a failure, but we won't speak to that today. So for a couple of years, you were doing it kind of close family and friends, and you still were working for the other company at that point.
Yep.
So at what point did you kind of...
There was a point about 8 years ago, I believe, that both because my other job, which was really supposed to last 6 months, when I made Aliyah, I convinced them that I could do this and I can transition for a little bit. And I was figuring, okay, so I'll have a job for 6 months. It'll give me some stability. I'll find something new when I get here. And it ended up lasting 10 years through a bunch of different ups and downs. Another story altogether.
A real story.
But towards the end of that period, first of all, the writing was on the wall a little bit. I could see that.
I mean, it'd been 10 years. You'd done well. You'd schlepped out a nice amount of time.
Listen, nowadays, when we see people, first of all, just the people that are on or off our books and our staff members themselves, there's no such thing as job loyalty anymore. 2 years and people are moving on both directions, both from the client and the boss 100%. And the employee. So 10 years was a tremendous blessing, and I'm very thankful for that. But it was coming to an end. And I decided it was time to really see if this is going to work or not. It's time to put, if you really want to build something, you have to put all your energies into it. You can't just do it kind of as a side gig forever, because it'll remain a side gig. And we decided that we're really going to focus and try to make this something of it. So that's why.
I know when you took the plunge, how many employees did you have at that stage?
It was Mike, myself, and Yael Freidman, who's our COO.
I've never met. I'm very excited to meet her.
Yes, God willing, you'll meet her at the mega event. But it was just the three of us at that time.
Oh, wow.
Yael has really built most of the backbone for everything that we do. All the processes, all the procedures, all the rules that we have, and that some people sometimes find a little bit overbearing, but there's a reason for every single one of them, and they keep us in business. They keep our clients happy at the end of the day. So she's really terrific. But yeah, at that time was just the three of us, and really Yael was really on it full time, and Mike and I were both had other jobs, and this is the time we started kind of focusing more.
Wow. So when did you hire your first employee outside of Yael?
We hired somebody in 2018.
You've grown quickly.
Yeah, I think it was 2018. That was not a long-lasting hire. It
was
our first hire, and it was not a good match for on either side.
It takes time.
That's what happened. And then we hired, I think the next hire we had was we hired a secretary, I believe it was 18 or 19. And since then, we've grown.
That's really quick.
To building, administrative assistants, account managers. We have now a whole machlaka, two different menal cheshbonot, bookkeepers on staff, as well as other project managers and marketing and other fun stuff.
Is that quite daunting that in my master's not good for 5 years, you went from nothing to 11 employees?
I prefer not to dwell on that. So thank you very much.
I
appreciate that.
I apologize profusely.
It does as a business owner, growing is great.
Yeah,
and
it's awesome.
And it's exciting, and it really kind of develops what your dream is, and that's what we wanted to happen. But yes, having that many employees is a tremendous amount of responsibility.
As I've reminded you.
Especially as not only the owner, but as the official CFO of the company. So I'm in charge of making sure that everyone actually does get paid and that there's funds available. So yes, there's plenty of things out there that keep me up at night.
But we'll come to that in a second, but I think that's an amazing story of that you kind of grew very slowly, very gradually. You had another job, and you really built the backbone of what needed to be a very, very, you needed to know exactly what you were doing. There was it's not like networking where, it's a networking event. You had to know what you were doing. And then once you really had that functionality in place, you could really start growing aggressively, essentially. Yeah.
One of the things we'll talk about soon is that, there is different levels of aggressive growth, and sometimes jumping after something that's a little bit too big at the wrong time is not the right approach. And in general, we've grown really slowly. I mean, yes, in 5 years to grow from, 4 employees to 12 that we have today is fast, but also the year-over-year growth has been slow, and we've tried to ensure that we're never in a position where we're stuck because we've grown too fast. We don't have the infrastructure to deal with the clientele that we have. We want to make sure that we always have somebody. That's also tough because on the other side, you want to make sure your employees are happy and busy and feel fulfilled, which is something that I've learned, which has also been a struggle that I've had. My background is an accountant, corporate accountant. I enjoyed nothing more than being in my cubicle, and I was working from my house for 10 years, for the first 10 years of Aliyah. Nobody bothers me. They send me an email. They need something. There's a call once a week, and I'm happy. I'm not the most social guy. So building a business and having to understand and deal with the psychology of the business also, and how to make people happy. I've have many missteps in that area, but that's something that we try to learn from and try to grow from.
And I again think it comes back to being a mentor. People really knowing that
I hope so.
I think so. I'm pretty sure. I want to come back to you saying you have a lot of sleepless nights. To what level do you find that being a business owner kind of bleeds into your personal life?
I try very hard to separate it. My wife might not agree with me.
I was going to say, how successful? Let's be honest. How successful are you?
Listen. One of the unfortunate and fortunate things about technology is we have telephones, and those phones don't stop when you're a business owner. Yeah. You in the beginning, every single client or every single person that sent me an email, no matter what time of the day it was, I would answer them right away. That's why
I still do that. It's terrible.
I tried to be as responsive as possible. My partners and Olive have both taught me to kind of scale that back. And I still answer many emails at night. I still turn on my phone in the morning, and answer emails right away. But I've also learned that there are some that can wait, and some that you need just to put the phone away. I try when it's dinner time, the phone goes away. Amazing. I shut my phone off at night, which I think is kind of a 101 type of thing that everyone should do. But apparently very few people do that.
My husband makes me do it. So I
think it's extremely important. Nothing's going to happen over the course of the night that's going to be that important, and if it is, you'll find out in the morning, and it'll be okay. Yeah. So those are things I really, really try to do. I try to set aside, a proper time for the family, for the kids. But it's a struggle. It's definitely a struggle because even sometimes when you're there, if you've had a rough day, your mind isn't always at home. Your mind is always like in this other place, and it takes a lot of work.
I really hear that. Do you feel that you've built resilience over the years of having things affect you less?
Some yes, some no.
You're quite an emotional person.
I am.
And like for the good and the bad, that's like...
I wear my heart in my sleeve. Yeah. So yes, it is hard for me to hide things. I'm not a very good liar. I'm not a very good person to hide things. My kids know when I speak at smachot of my family, I usually end up crying something.
Really?
That's the way it is.
It's beautiful. My husband never cries.
I'm fine with it.
It's great.
But so it is hard for me to separate. That is an area that takes a lot of work for me.
How many kids do you have?
6 Kanainar. Well, 7 Kanainar. I have a son-in-law, and so I have 7 children. My daughter's married and a grandson. Wow, and they're very important to you. They're everything. Yeah, and does that help keep perspective with the business? I try, 100%. That is the most important thing. My relationship with God and my relationship with my family is 1 and 2, and the business is a distant third. But in order to support the family, I need to support the business. I was talking about this with the interview before. It's a hard balance. And and then there's days every day is different. That's the truth of the matter. Yeah, and we, like you said before, we have a staff full of young, mothers who, I have to be as understanding as possible that they have young children at home, and they're away at the babysitter at school during the day, but kids get sick. Kids, need their mothers. Often there's appointments. I can attest to that. So it's the whole office is a constant juggle. In and out. People are here, people are not there. But we all do our best, and we all know that we have a responsibility to get the work done. That's really the bottom line. You have a responsibility to get your work done. Above and beyond that, you do what you can, but the family comes first after that. Do you find that having a business partner, I guess not just Mike, but Yael also, do you find that helps you in the sense that you can? It helps in a lot of ways because we've learned we are all responsible for different areas of the business. It's impossible for us to have grown a business to this size, without being as a one man show. That'd be impossible. We all rely on each other and assume that each other's doing the work they're supposed to be doing. Which again, you have to learn how to develop communication, which has not been something that I've always been successful at. Something that I've also learned that you have to be. When you're working by yourself in a cubicle, you know exactly what you're supposed to be doing, and your boss knows what you're supposed to be doing, and you just give the deliverables to your boss, and you're good to go. When you're working with a team, it's a whole different dynamic, and so that's something that I still am in the process of learning. There's definitely days where each of us picks each other up. There's periods where each picks each other up. There's time periods that we go through that are more challenging, both for good and for bad. So having that a partner on your side is definitely helpful. There's also, as with everything, there's a balance. There's advantages and disadvantages. We're very different people, and
very different,
extremely different people, and have different ideas and different goals that we want to accomplish. So making room for that, your partner's dreams is also important, but also a struggle. Yeah. It's a little bit like a marriage, but
I think it's a lot like a marriage.
Hopefully, a marriage you're a little bit more aligned. But
I think it's a lot like a marriage. I really do. I think Mike also really wants world domination, essentially. Is that accurate to say, isn't it?
100%. He's all over it. And he's going to get there.
Yeah, for sure. I know that. I think you'll get there together. I think you need a Mike, you need a Baruch. You know what I'm saying? You need kind of that calm and more analytical, and you need someone who
exactly
shoots for the stars and you reach the moon energy.
I think we both agree with. Both of us are irreplaceable in the fact that the business would not have made it this far without his dreaming and without his building and his, like you said, shoot for the stars, and without my keeping 2 feet on the ground and keeping conservative and, the expenditures to a minimum.
I respect that. Sorry, we're going to move to your failures. I really, really like the first one because it's what I tell everybody in networking. In networking, I always tell people it's not about ever selling, it's about building relationships. And your first one is about focusing on relationship building and not just building a sale. So thank you firstly for validating me. And talk to me a little bit about that, what that means to you.
Well, what I've learned in business, which I didn't necessarily understand from the beginning, especially when you're starting out, every single transaction is important because every single sale, really could mean putting food on the table. Really could mean, 100%. Paying a salary, paying a bill. And so you want to go after it at all costs. But the reality that I've learned is that nothing in business is about sale. It's about, like we said, building the relationship. Mm-hmm. There's going to be many times where the fit is not right between you and whoever you're trying to pitch to. But if you pitch to them, and I learned this over time, sometimes you get an inquiry and say, hey, I'm interested in your services. And oftentimes it's like left field. It's nowhere close to what we're looking for. And the urge is there to roll my eyes and say, I really don't want to just say, sorry, move on. But I've learned that just by sending back information saying, hey, we're not the right fit, but this is where you should go to. Sitting with a person for 10, 15 minutes and giving them the time. You don't always have the time to do that. Sometimes you have to charge for that, sometimes not. But regardless, that 10 minutes of focus that you have on them, where you can give them some information, something that will help them, will always come back to help you. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, even if they're not the right fit for you, they're going to have a friend that's the right fit for you. They're going to say, hey, I sat down with the Route 38 team. They really treated me well. I really want to be a part of them. And I've learned that is much more important. And that'll help your business. That'll help everything. It helps everything in life. And I've learned that, sometimes when you go after the transaction and you go after the dollar signs, you end up failing in many different ways. You'll fail down the road. This particular sale may or may not go through. It's always best to treat a person with respect. It's always best to try to create a rapport with the person, and that will always, always, always bear fruit down the road. It's
like networking works. It's incredible.
I don't know. I think I probably should speak to someone about that. Do you know anybody?
Do you have like a tangible example of a time that you had a conversation with someone that eventually down the road kind of led to a real piece of business?
Like I said, countless times. People have called me over the last 8-9 years. This happened. I can't even count the amount of times this happened. Where I had a conversation with somebody, tried to help them, but realized that this wasn't going to work. Or they came back to me. I spent a good amount of time with them, and I thought it was going to work, but they came back to say sorry. And then 6 months, a year, 2 years later, I'll get an email, a call from somebody say, hey, I got your number from so and so. Usually it's like a WhatsApp, a random WhatsApp. That I have no idea what this person is, where they're from. It's an American number. It's a British number. I have no idea. But I spoke to so-and-so, and they said that I should give you a call. I'm like, thanks, great. But
it's amazing.
At the end of the day, that ends up being another sale that we end up coming to, and as well as it works not only. Again, this is another pitch for you. It works. It works not only with sales, but with partners. When you have people that the networking events. I'll be honest with you. I love your networking events because first of all, they are so well run, and they're so on time, and they're efficient, and they get across exactly what you want to get across. There's no messing around, and I think it's great, and that's why we love sponsoring and working with you because that's why you work in general, and you treat everybody with a smile, and as you said, the same menschlichkeit that we have, that it's something that you try to espouse, but. For us, many of your events, the clientele there may not necessarily be perfect fits for us. But what I like being there is with some of the other vendors and some of the other professionals who have been around for a while. I've built relationships with them, the accountants, with financial advisors, people, in that type of network, which I've developed over the course of the years, just sitting down with them. And so if I say that we're not the right fit for somebody, so I'll send them to somebody else. Say, you need to sit with an accountant, you need to sit with a financial advisor. And when you develop those relationships, so again, besides the fact that you find some amazing people, and that can just strengthen you in general. But you also, we don't do referrals. We could, but I don't enjoy referrals because I want to help.
You mean referral fees, by the way? Referral fees.
Yeah. Sorry, we refer
just to
people.
Be clear, I understood.
Because I want to help. Because when you help somebody else and find someone else a client, first of all, that's what we're here for, and second of all, it'll come back. It'll come back.
In the networking biz, we call that referral partners. But yeah, 100%. I'm just going to play this every event going forward.
I think it's.
Do you obviously? I know that you sponsor a few events. Do you do a lot of networking in Israel, like formal, or do you kind of do more just like one-to-ones?
Most of it is more one-to-one. We did for a while our own internal, as you spoke at one of our events that we did for a couple years. Those, for some reason, went by the wayside, and we need to start doing those again. The more smaller, more intimate type of events that we've found are trying to help our employees and our people to try to build their own relationships. I think networking definitely does work. I think you have to know when you go into an event who the people at the event are going to be, and base your goals for that event on that. Networking is not necessarily about, like we said, it's not about making a sale. It's about meeting people. It's about finding different people from different areas of life than you. One of the things that we are trying to do is that we are, we're in Beit Shemesh. We're very much, just because of who we are and what we're comfortable with, we're very much in the Beit Shemesh, Yerushalayim area, Anglo, specifically, American, because we happen to either all be Americans or the children of Americans who made Aliyah. And so while we have clients from the EU, we have clients from the UK, we have clients from Australia and South Africa, they're definitely fewer and far between. Yeah. And we have clients in the Merkaz area of Israel, employees also, but we're less known to them because that's just not really our area. So part of what we try to gain in networking events is just try to get our name out there and brand recognition and exist.
As part of your strategy of getting more into the Merkaz, kind of what does that look like for you?
It means really getting out there and sponsoring more of these types of events, and trying to get out to the Tel Aviv area, which is not our comfort zone, and just breaking out of your comfort zone, which is...
I'd imagine also if you guys kind of approaching, say on LinkedIn, accountants in Tel Aviv, or those sorts of, and having chats with them and really just getting your feet on the ground and doing like a day of meetings in Tel Aviv. Sure. Yep. Sitting down in a coffee shop and just meet, and offering to pay. I always offer to pay networking meetings, and just meeting with accountant after accountant. Not that they know that it's kind of like that, but that's a really good way for you to build those referral partners.
Sure. Also, those are all things that we are working on.
I'm just voicing it for the listeners. I think it's important for them to hear that networking obviously should always come to ESM, but networking is about so much more than structured events. It's also about you reaching out to people who could be good referral partners and just getting to know them and building those relationships. That's what all I do is create that in like an easier format, but there's ways that you can do that as well by yourself.
Right. You create the ability to start a relationship. The building of the relationship is on the individual.
Wow. And that is such a beautiful way of putting it. And I'm so grateful for that, because people join ESN and they kind of say, well, what can you guarantee me? Well, I can guarantee you nothing. But it is, I always say, listen, you can join and I'll do everything I can to support you, but it's a commitment. Networking does take time. You need to do like one-to-ones is just like a chat outside of a meeting for the listeners if you don't know. You need to have one-to-ones. You need to do the follow-up. When I go to, we were just at the same very big event. I had a list of people to follow up with. I did my follow-up. Like, I wrote notes. Like, I worked really hard at that event to make sure that I made the most of my opportunities. And I'm sure that you guys also had a strategy in place. I think people go and they're like, oh, I'm going to go schmooze. Like, there's schmoozing, but there's also being intentional about it. And I think people really forget that. People think that networking is just about talking.
No.
And it's not. Yeah, exactly.
Not at all. Nothing is about talking.
But listen, sometimes it really is just about talking. But in networking, you know, I think a big failure people have in networking is also that they like don't know how to end a conversation. So they'll talk to the same person for like half an hour, 45 minutes. And the event is 3 hours. So I'm very good at ending conversations at networking events.
You got to move on.
So yeah, and the other person wants to as well. I don't know why people are so, just say like, listen, you want to talk to other people and I do as well. Like, let's exchange numbers and let's move on. People are not such good networkers, but I have faith that we can, with the two of us together, can improve the entirety of the Olim community in Israel.
We'll do it.
If somebody was thinking about like starting to network for their business, what's the biggest tip you would give to them?
Be true to yourself. Mm-hmm. First of all, you have to really know what your business is.
Oh, wow. That's beautiful.
You have to be able to explain your business. You may have to explain it in a 30-second pitch. I've seen someone talk about that also. But even if you can't do it in 30 seconds, you have to really be able to portray what your business does.
And who you want also, I think, is really key. Like what you're asking for in networking. If you don't know who your referral partners are, how can you network?
Correct.
Well, the networking event recently, somebody said, you know, I want to meet with everybody. And I was like, oy vey. Oy vey. And it wasn't, you know, my space to kind of give suggestions there, but I felt that was a less useful time.
Agreed. You got a target.
Okay, well, this has been great. I mean, we can leave now. This has been really great advertisement for my mega event. My social media manager's going to have so many reels to choose from here. We'll continue on, but I could talk about networking obviously nonstop. But it's really nice to hear a company who are doing well and growing nicely do take networking seriously, because I do see that networking is so important and people do it so badly in Israel. And it's really a shame, actually. So I'm happy to see that you guys have found it and used it so well and used it so successfully. We're going to move on to the second failure, which I think has a lot to do with what we discussed before about you grew up, but your professional experience beforehand was as an accountant, and your failure is failing to let go of client minutia. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Sure. As you mentioned, we did grow, I guess, fairly quickly from, you know, having just a couple of employees 7-8 years ago to now having 12, and there were quite a few missteps along the way, especially I think this happens when you build your own business. Each client feels like, you know, it's not your baby, but each client is so important to you.
Yeah.
And especially if you, again, are a person who values relationships and values helping people. So you want to continue to help those clients. And you want to hold their hand and do whatever you can to make sure that they're successful, which will, you know, also breed your success, but you really want to take care of them. They also, in the beginning, when you're building your business, the first people who jumped on are people took a little bit of their own leap of faith to say, hey, this is going to be okay. You know, it's not so easy. Any type of startup, you send your kid to a new school, you're sending, you know, it's a leap of faith in the school. And there should be appreciation for that. So you want to be able to show that. But the more that you keep on doing that, the more sometimes you get in the way of the people who should be doing that for you. Meaning if you hire somebody who's going to be running your operations, you hire an account manager to take care of that person. So they should be doing that, not you. Because first of all, the amount of missteps you're going to have in the interim is going to cause chaos. It, you know, speaks to something we also talked about before, is the fact that they don't feel as if that you trust them as much because you're doing everything yourself. And this is something that I've worked on really hard, continue to work on. I think I've gotten better. I hope that my staff thinks I've gotten better. But you know, even though you feel it's your business and you're the owner or the co-owner, whatever that is, sometimes you got to really take a step back and say, you know, this is not my job anymore. I really have to let somebody else do this. Especially when you know, I was also on the sales side, or the new business side at least. So I was coming in from the beginning of the funnel. You want to kind of take that through, but you have to learn it's time to step back. It's time to let other people, you hired people, they're great people, let them do the job for you. You're going to succeed. It allows you to, you know, again, we talked about earlier, is trying to separate your business and your family. The more you get sucked in, you're trying to do every single thing, the less you'll have time for everything else. So really, really important to let the people you hire do their jobs. it'll help you grow personally. It'll help you breathe a little bit, and it'll help them grow, which will help you grow.
Was there a trigger where you kind of realized, oh gosh, I'm really making a mistake here by getting involved too much?
My staff let me know that there was a trigger.
Okay, but that's good that they felt comfortable coming to you.
Yeah. At a certain point, it was just I was too overbearing. Not that I was overbearing on them, but I was doing too much.
No, I understand. Yeah,
and getting in the way, and then they didn't know that I was doing this, and then it caused other chaos down the road that sometimes is really hard to repair. Because I could promise something to a client that I thought was fine, but the reality wasn't fine.
It's also very, very different running a business that has 3 employees versus a business that has 7, 8. That's a whole different ball game.
Correct. So in the beginning, it was much harder. Now it's much easier because I know that this person's in charge of this, and I have to send them to that. So in the beginning, it was much harder. But still, I still find myself, because I want to say yes and I want to give, and have to sometimes bite my tongue and say, no, this is not my department. Yeah. I can't make that decision. The account manager wants to be able to me to make a decision because I'm the boss, and say, like, should I do this or should I do that? And sometimes I can't say, it's not my decision to make.
Every day when you have kind of those challenges, it's every day making a decision to be like, I'm not going to get involved. It's like with a marriage, every day making decisions to love that. But, it's every day it's making those decisions. It's not something that's easy when you have those challenges. Correct.
Like you said, it's just like marriage. In the beginning, you make many mistakes in that area, and, learning that, you sometimes just keep quiet and just smile and move on. And it takes, thank God I've been married for 26 years, and I have a wonderful marriage, and with the love of my life.
I've never met your wife.
Was she at the event? I guess not.
No, I've never met her. Does she want to come to the mega event? Probably not. You've got kids at home.
I got kids at home, and she probably has other things she's building. Truth is, maybe I'll put it. She's building her own business. That's another conversation. Another conversation for another time.
That's exciting. Yes. Okay, sorry. Carry on.
That marriage building, any relationship building, only comes over time and hard work and ups and downs and learning from the downs.
Now you're saying kind of very calmly, like, my staff came to me and said, basically, back off. I'm sure they were much more polite than I'm British. Now you can say it very calmly, but at the time, how did you feel when they came to you and said that?
Horrible.
Yeah. So.
I felt, look, what do you mean? I'm just trying to help. I'm trying to be a good person.
Yeah.
It took many years of listening to it and hearing it and hearing other people telling me, yeah.
Do you feel that your staff, feel comfortable coming to you and telling you things like that? If you could.
I try to have an open door. I think it's really important. My staff is the same type of people that I am. They're just here to do their job, and they want to be comfortable, and they want to grow, and they want to, be able to accomplish. It's important to learn each person to the best of your abilities. Some people have thank God our staff are not people who want to clock in and clock out. Our staff are people who take responsibility. They're amazing, amazing people, all of them, every single one. That they become family to you in a certain way. Their families become family, and it's something that not a single one of them. Sometimes I have to leave early, sometimes you have to come in late. That's fine, but they take responsibility, and they also take responsibility for their clients and make sure they're doing the right. That our clients are taken care of. So they have their own needs. There are people who just are there for a paycheck. It's probably not someone you want on your staff in general, but you have to know that when you talk to a person, that's part. Learning a person is knowing what makes them tick, what's important to them, and relating to them on that level.
How do you find a way to hire good people?
First of all, it's I don't know if it's luck, but I think there's a feel that you get when you interview people. Yael is also in charge of our HR. She probably knows more about HR laws than anybody, any English-speaking person in the country for sure.
That's helpful.
She's incredible. She's learned mostly on her own. She went back to school. She has an MBA now.
Yeah, wow. That's really cool.
Very successful. And I think that, so she is very good at, kind of screening out a lot of the resumes that we get when we're trying to hire people. A lot of it's feel. A lot of it's coming to a room, and, there's people that we interviewed that came into the room that said that we could tell that they're a person that's not just satisfied with where they are. They want to build and grow, but you could just tell that there's warmth and there's a heart there. And
it's a gut feeling, basically.
I think a lot of it is that.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's really, it's incredible that you got 11. I'm not good with numbers, I keep forgetting.
12, thank
you. I'm not my background is not accountancy. I used to leave maths classes and cry. It's not my energy. I'm also a crier like yourself, by the way. Is your wife a crier, by the way, out of interest?
She is, but probably different ways than me.
Interesting, because my husband is really like, that man does not shed a tear.
Well, he's Russian, right?
He's Russian Israeli. I can count on one hand. Our
So
wedding when I gave birth.
It comes from your background. It comes from where
That's
you come
basically
from.
it. I think crying is very healthy, but that's a whole other mental health topic that we'll get into. Wow, I've completely lost my train of thought. Let's refocus. You have staff. You have 11 staff. It's incredible that you've grown a team of 11 and that you're happy, that just by gut you've hired, I'm sure other things go into it, but mainly by gut you've hired good people.
We've been thank God.
It's a testament to you guys, I think also. People want to work for good people.
I hope so. We try to create an environment that's open. We try to, most of the staff works in one open area, one open room. That's on purpose. So they, I'm happy when I hear them chatting. I'm comfortable because I know they do the work. I'm not worried about them messing around. I know that they're not sitting on the computer surfing all day. I know they're focused on doing the work, but I know when I'm happy when they're chatting, that means that they're building their own relationships. That means they're also letting out a little bit. A working mother doesn't have that many channels to be able to let loose on, some steam, whatever, some frustrations. And I think it's really healthy. So I'm really, I love when they're in that state, because I know that it's a healthy thing. And I think people appreciate working in an environment like that. I'm
going to say something. If you don't want to leave it in the podcast, it's fine. I think that also having an author, most of your staff is religious. And I find that the confines of halacha in a good, positive way make that relationship much more easy.
100%.
I think that I know in networking, I'm very sensitive here, I've had slightly uncomfortable situations with men. I had it more in England, but I've also had it in Israel. And I think with ultra-Orthodox men, those issues don't exist because they just aren't able to within the confines of halacha. And I think that definitely, there's that trust there, hopefully. And there's very clear certain things that you just have to do that make it much more comfortable for everybody. Like keeping the door open, do you know what I mean? I think that as I grow older, I'm more and more grateful for those things I think safeguard.
That's the point. That's the whole point of the halacha. That's the point of the Torah is that we if we made decisions on our own, we'd fail every single time.
But specifically with
guidelines,
having 2 male partners, a female partner, and everything that brings. And also your team is, I think, all women, mostly. And I think that just creates a more comfortable atmosphere where everybody knows where they stand.
We definitely have defined boundaries. There are some people who are even more defined than we have. We have a little bit more relaxed, but in certain areas. But in general, I think that's what we.
I think it really. Yeah, I'm religious, but very, very light. But people often men will often ask at networking events, do you hug? Now mostly that's fine. Occasionally. And I think I'm just going to say, actually, no, I don't. I think that's going to be my new thing. And it's not a religious thing for me, though. I'm happy to blame it on, I'm happy to use it as an excuse. I just think having those clear defined boundaries within a male-female dynamic actually makes everybody so much more comfortable. Anyway, that's a whole other issue. But I think it probably helps you in your company specifically. I can imagine that really just makes everyone's boundaries really clear. And I really respect that.
I think it wasn't even a thought.
No, it's just something you've thought about.
We thought about it because that's who we are, and that's but like I mentioned before, the honesty level of my staff is. I'll throw this out. This as hopefully they'll listen to this. But I have staff people come to me and ask me if they can use the copier for personal use.
Really?
They ask me. They'll ask me. They'll pay for it, but those members have a staff car. If they can put their son, their daughter.
People get a staff car?
We have a couple of people because they work from.
Can I work for you?
If you know anything about the way these things work in Israel, it's not necessarily the best thing.
Oh, really?
Because you get taxed on it. That's a whole
it's a whole
different discussion. But they are honest. I get so much chizuk from them because they're so honest. Again, there's no one sitting there surfing. There's no one. They don't have phones. Most of them to be able to mess around. But it's to their credit. They're really, really incredible. So yashrustic and so straight and narrow, and that's part of what makes us successful. Yeah, it's really awesome. Do you find that being kind of more on the ultra-Orthodox side makes it more challenging in the Merkaz, let's say? Sure. Yeah. Sure. Because it's not our comfort zone. Mm-hmm. It's being in environments that we are not used to necessarily. I did work, in a previous lifetime at one of the big 4 accounting firms. So I kind of experienced that in the beginning of my career when I left my own yeshiva world and I was all of a sudden working in Manhattan.
So cool.
with people who I thought this is big four accounting. This is like the cream of the crop of this, and I learned very quickly that they're wonderful people,
it's
but they have
different.
very, very different values, very different ways of acting and speaking, and so I was definitely have been thrown into that world in the past and have experienced it, but it's definitely something we're less comfortable in, and it's also something that I feel that we are always kind of a little bit on a pedestal. We have to prove ourselves.
Yeah, is that really?
Yeah, because if we have, we do walk the walk. We do,
Yeah, no,
and
that's no
I
question.
believe we do, but you got to be careful with every single word you say. You got to
Really?
make sure that you don't, and any slip up, someone looks at you and they look how you're dressed,
Yeah,
and
that's how you feel.
it can come back to boomerang against, not only you, but everyone who you're representing. So there is a challenge in that.
I have 2 points. The first one is I'm very lucky in that I can be what you want me to be. Like if you want me to be more orthodox, I grew up in a very orthodox world. I can play that game. And if you want me to be not super Chiloni, but if you want me to be more secularist, I can do both. So I'm very lucky in that sense. And I'm very grateful for that. I think in Israel, it really helps. I think what I found super interesting about making Aliyah is I've always had really close ties to the Haredi world. My parents are not Haredi, but I'm really from that world in the sense that I was brought up in that area. A lot of my close friends are from that world. And I feel super, super comfortable there. And in England, I feel very connected. And then in Israel, and there isn't in England, I don't think, such a big divide between Haredim and, it's not really Chiloni, but Mazorti traditional vibes. In Israel,
That's the way we all came.
It's the same in America?
The entirety of Ramat Beit Shemesh is all a bunch of Americans who all would have, prayed in davened in the same shul.
Yeah.
In America, maybe not the exact same, but live in the similar communities. And when they came here, you have to make a choice.
And here it's my husband isn't religious. He has very similar traditional values to me, but he's not religious. And I want to be polite here. Some of the comments that were made about the Haredi community, and I'm talking about the Israeli Haredim, not the American Haredim, I was really shocked by when I first made it, and I would really defend them. Over time, I understand more where they're coming from. I do see some more of the issues, but it was a real culture shock to me. And the comments that were made, and it would it would hurt me. You're a sensitive person, it would really hurt my heart to hear them talk about the Haredi community in that way, where obviously every community has its faults, and God knows the Haredi community is not exempt, but I do see a lot of beauty and a lot of value in what they espouse, and it was very challenging for me. And here I think the separation is so, I'm not going into politics, but it's just painful. The separation is really, you feel it, and it's hard, and it hurts, it really hurts.
I think that's one of the jobs of the Anglo community and the Olean community in general.
That's beautiful.
Is that we all came from places that were more accepting.
100%.
And I think we, by nature, therefore, accept more people, and we all have broad families with different types of people in those families also. And I think that's probably one of the reasons that we had to go out to those countries, and one of the reasons that we're here now is to try to, help smooth that out a little bit.
I really like that. It's interesting. My Jerusalem group is much more religious than my Tel Aviv group, let's say, which obviously my Jerusalem group, we have a Hasidish member. And I remember when he called me to ask to ask about the networking group and should he come, whatever. And he was very nervous. And you may not know this about me, but the more from you are, the more from I will speak. I'll go so he was Hasidish, so he was speaking hardcore. So I was matching him. So when we spoke on the phone, I think he thought I was very Hamish, very quite Haredi. And then he met me, and he later now, I wouldn't say we're friends, but we're we speak, and he was when I first met you, I really expected this Hamish Haredi that I met you, and you're quite modern. And I was listen, I'll be whatever you want me to be. But when I have from people who want to come to ESN, I have to be honest. I always say, listen, you're going to feel more. We have from people at Tel Aviv, you're going to feel more comfortable at Jerusalem. And I think it's interesting how it's an issue here, where I just don't feel it was as much of an issue in where I'm from in England, and you're saying America.
I think we have about 50 different podcast materials that we've gone through.
We have a lot. We're doing the last one now. Don't panic. I'm going to let you go very soon. So the last one, there's two, and we're going to put them together essentially, is ignoring red flags. And specifically, we have a case study of an entrepreneur who promised a big portfolio.
Sure. Again, this is something that we've learned in the beginning of our journey, where we were trying to attract as much business as possible and win as many clients over as possible. And sometimes when you do that, we talked about before about the fact that you shouldn't be chasing after the dollar shekel signs, but you should pound signs, I'm sorry. But you should be chasing after the relationship. But besides that, sometimes, you might want to gain a client because you're really desperate. You need the money, the income, but there's red flags that are out there that you very simply and very easily just glaze over. This person is blinking and flashing, either personality-wise, that's something that you just, that they're going to be just attacking you all the time. There's a lack of trust that's being built. Yeah. That's one thing that's really, really hard to overcome. And the other thing is that, they may have a business model or an approach that is a little bit different than what you're really selling. So you try to be malleable and you try to say, okay, I'm going to try to, I think we could do this if we do it like X, Y, and Z. But if you change too many things, you're veering too far away from what really makes you work and makes you tick, and then you're going to get in trouble in that direction also. Like I said, promising a person the stars, even though you want to say yes to everybody, sometimes you really have to say no. So there are, a number of red flags out there, like I said, both personality-wise and just in terms of the makeup of each party that should tell you sometimes just stay away. Politely say, I'm sorry, this is not going to work. I'm going to cry to you and say, I really want it to work. You say, no, maybe you should go to this person. Never say no to a person. Always say no, but here's someone who you can go to, if possible. But there is somebody, and this is how I've learned from it. This is something that happened just recently. There's someone who really wanted to sign on with us, and they presented their case, and then they presented who their client was in the States. And this was somebody who I had a very, very, very uncomfortable conversation with. I've been dealing with new business for 8 years now, and thousands of different both people here, employees, or people planning on making Aliyah, or people on the other side who are hiring these people. And this was by far the worst conversation I ever had with this person. I was beyond. I got off the phone shaking, and this is not a person I could do business with. So this, just in the last month or so, this person gets on the phone and presents a whole case. Okay, fine, sounds like we can make this work, and then. Either I asked who their client was, which I don't usually do, or or maybe it was in the email address of the person, and I saw who the client was, and I'm like, wait a minute, I remember that name. I went back through my emails, I'm like, no,
really,
no. So I've learned, we're trying to do a workaround for this person to make it work, but I won't do business with that person, just because they, just the way it went over. So 5 years ago, I would have said, oh, okay. And even just recently, again, another case happened where we had a very challenging situation, and we had to really take a step back and say, okay, a new opportunity arose. We came close to, potentially going down a very bad road for us. And we got out of it, thank God. And then a new opportunity arose with the same end user client. And we're like, we had to take a step back, and, Mike and I spoke about it for a good period of time. We went through, did our research, talked to other people, is this situation going to be similar or not? And we ended up saying, yes, we're trying it. But those are conversations you have to have when someone comes up with a red flag. The other side of that coin that we mentioned was, someone offering you the world, the grand slam client, I like to call it. As much as we've grown in terms of our staff, we've really grown slowly over the course of the years, and, probably gained a total of between, there's some years that we grew, we doubled in the beginning because, we had so few clients, but now we usually gain somewhere between 20 to 30, maybe if it's a good year, 40 net increase in clients over the course of the year. We have a lot of people leave also, so that's why you have to look at the net. But it's still relatively slow. But there's sometimes you get like an inquiry, and like, a company wants to hire, has 30 employees here in Israel, and they want to hire them through us. That for us is, especially 7, 8 years ago, that would have been a game changer. That would have been like the world. And it happened in a particular case back when we had probably 20 in total employees. Someone wanted to hire someone with 9. So that would have, 50% increase almost. We're talking right there, and then we're like, our eyes glazed over with like all the things like this. This is it. We've made it. And we spent a day. We went down to their offices and spent a day trying to sign everybody on. Thank God we didn't actually sign contracts, but just sitting with each employee and getting their information and understanding their situation, what their needs were, and everything was like really close to being done. There was just one thing that was missing. This was a startup. The investors, hadn't yet come up with the money, and we were promised tomorrow the investment meeting, and tomorrow it's going to come. And that tomorrow kept on being more tomorrows, and next week and the week after. They never ended up getting funding. We never ended up signing any of those people. Thank God we didn't really spend that much money on it. We just spent a lot of time on it, both in terms of the actual physically being down there and just trying to build it and you know, the infrastructure to make it, you know, successful. And that all ended up crashing. We even ended up indirectly getting taken to Beit Mishpat, to court, because one of the partners over there was, you know, upset at the other ones, and they dragged us into it, and thank God we got out of it. But these are times that you learn that, you know, when someone presents with that type of opportunity, so of course you're going to get excited. And of course you should be excited, and you should try to go after it to the extent possible, but don't spend that much more than you would spend on a single client.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I would say that because, you know, obviously if it's, you know, looking gold, and at a certain point you put more efforts into it. But in general, you have to be very wary about someone who promises you the world.
Until the money hits your account, basically, you shouldn't be doing.
That's for sure. That's for sure. Until you know for sure that this is going to be something that you never know for sure. But until you have that feeling that this is going to be successful, you know, treat everyone with the same level of kid gloves, and treat everyone the same level of separation to setback, you know, until the deal is done. To say, you know, be rational, be reasonable, look at the whole situation. Don't look at what they're promising you. Look at what the background is. If all that works out, then terrific. That's great. You know, sometimes, like, you know, I use the parable of baseball, which is easier. So I don't know if that's going to help you or not. It's probably won't going to help you. I don't know how it's going to work in football.
You had me till then.
But there's something called a grand slam, where you hit a home run and you score 4 runs all at one time, and everyone goes crazy, and that's great. And there's another concept of moving each base runner over station to station. I know you don't have any idea what I'm talking about, but the Americans who are listening will know that. Station to station, you go one to the next. You don't try to go for the huge victory all at once.
It's advice I think even I often also forget. I do mega events, so I do like events in collaboration with other companies, like big events. And a company approached me, which already is it's already nice to be approached by a very serious big company, and they have branches around the world. Like it was cool. It was like it was cool. It was like a cool company, and they approached me, and I had, I think, 3 meetings with them, and nothing had been decided. And I was like. And in the end, this is embarrassing. Like my husband got on the call with me, and he just had to be like, "What's going on? Like you can't." And it was just like, and they weren't promising me the world so much. I just like was quite. It was an event I'd wanted to do for a long time. It was like something that would have been really cool, and like it was just going nowhere. And my husband literally just had to be like, he didn't quite do this, but he was like, "No, like asma, like tachlis, like let's get here." And it's interesting because often you do get like the name was amazing, like it was all very exciting. So I kind of got blown away by that. But actually, like, was that actually going to happen? Like, right. I had 3 meetings, one of which was face to face with them. It's enough until I'm seeing actual money, like zero.
Yep, I think that's one of the real advantages of having a partner, is that you can see somebody and you can see stars. The name of the person, the name of the company, and like all of a sudden you're like, wow, this is it. This is great, and it makes you feel good. It strokes your ego. You're like, they want me. This person wants to speak to me. Wow, it makes you feel really good, which is why it's very helpful. That's one of the really big advantages of having a partner. Yeah. You know, having a husband who's a partner is even more helpful. But to kind of, but when I talk about business with my wife, also she does the same thing. Sometimes she grounded. Let's take a step back. This is not, these aren't the stars, and they're either wooing you, or they don't really have anything, or they're just trying to make you feel good, and take that step back and really evaluate what they're trying to get from you.
My husband's also a financial analyst, so he's very good at this, and he is my business partner. Like, he has a full-time job. He's very busy in himself, but like he is a crucial part of the business. My business doesn't exist without him. I mean, there's so many parts of the financial side of it. I mean, start the business. I didn't speak Hebrew. Like, he's extremely grateful to my husband, and I do consider him to be my business partner, and it's all thanks to our joint efforts. It's not just my business. I'm always very open about that. I don't think you can really do this alone, especially as an online Israel. I think you need that support. And I also very much get carried away by the glitter and the glam, and like, it's cool and it's rare. It's not something that happens often, and my husband's just very like neutral about everything. Like, he doesn't get excited about anything, and he doesn't get sad about everything. He's just this like stable, solid line. Whereas in any given day, I could be like super high and then super low. Do you know what I mean? Because and I have really worked on that, and I don't think that's true anymore, actually. And it's something I've really had to work on, is just keeping and I think as a business, like keeping that stability. It's so key.
Right. So you talked about before how he doesn't cry. That's how he does it. He's stable. He doesn't get
he's so stable.
And that's a good thing.
It is my goal to be not as stable as him, but like, to get towards. I would say as a business owner, that's the one thing I've learned is that I never get too upset by anything and I never get too excited about anything.
For sure.
Because nothing's really going to make or break the business until like you actually say it's, nothing's ever that amazing and nothing's ever that terrible.
Correct. And at the end of the day, like we said before, your family's more important anyway. So if God forbid something does happen, it's a business. It's not.
Yeah, I always remind myself I used to get rid of business, and then I like have a thing where I'm like, Helena, you're in networking groups. Like that's what you do. You're in networking groups. Like it's really cool and it's amazing. You help people with Parnassa, but like it's not life and death, like ever. Because some people treat me like it's life and death, and I'm like, no. Like even I don't think it's as important. So where are you? Like come back to earth. And I think it's really important to have that perspective on like, and especially now with everything that's going on, I think it's really
yeah. Yes, we definitely need perspective, and the more that we live through what we're living through right now, the more that becomes clear. That
abundantly clear. Yeah, I think if nothing else, thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Thank you for inviting me.
It was so lovely to have you. Where can people find you?
They can find us at our website at route38.co.il. There's a new American website that should be American-focused website that should be up in the next couple of weeks, which is, I believe, route38.net.
That's exciting.
Yes.
It's really exciting.
Yes. And if you have any inquiries, you can always send an email to info@route38.co.il.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Helena. This is great.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to Fading Our Ways to Success. If you would like more content from me, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn or follow me on Instagram and network with Helena for more networking tips, life musings, and honest perspectives on being a business owner. A reminder that failure is part of every single business journey, so don't feel discouraged.